episode of Virtual Coffee. My name is Alexa Collier, and on this podcast, I chat with small business owners, early career professionals, all about their journeys, perspectives, pieces of advice, and just about their passions. Now, with me today is Anna Murphy, the founder and owner of Raleigh Blooms. Anna started Raleigh Blooms from her love for finding the joy in simple things. She creates beautiful custom bouquets for a variety of events here in the Raleigh area. And on this episode, we discuss how she balances her side hustle, which is Raleigh Blooms, with her full-time job. We talk about how nothing is permanent, and she gives advice to other small business owners, which is to take it slow. That's just a sneak peek of this amazing episode. Now, before we hear from Anna, I'd really appreciate if you could rate and review Virtual Coffee on the Apple Podcasts app. Really helps us out, and you can also follow us along on mostly all social medias. It's all at Virtual Coffee Podcast. As always, thank you so much for your support and happy listening. Now let's dive into Anna's episode. Welcome, Anna. Thank you so much for being on Virtual Coffee.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm looking forward to our conversation. And as I do for every episode, would just love to hear from you, Raleigh Blooms' mission and, kind of the idea of how this business came to be. Just give us some background.
Yes. Kind of just our idea, our mission. We just really believe that lovely blooms bring joy to spaces. Flowers are really unique in that they're super temporary. We love them. They brighten spaces. They bring joy in a simple way. So I just love playing with them, messing with them. I actually, I have nothing to do with flowers in my past and my education. I have a degree in textiles. I have a full-time job where I do a lot of organizational development and change management. And this is just a side hustle that I have and have recently started and have grown to really love. So that's kind of the little gist about us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask if you always loved flowers or something like that. So why, you explained why flowers, but how did it start, right? Like where did the idea come from? Oh, I'll start a business or a side hustle about flowers.
Yeah. So honestly, during the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, I was kind of just looking for some hobbies, looking for some things to do. I went to Trader Joe's and I just bought some flowers, thought that might be a fun thing to do on a weekend. And so I just played with them. I posted it on Instagram just because, do you do anything if you don't post it on Instagram? Yeah. And a friend of mine just said, hey, can I buy this from you for my sister? And I said, of course, why not? And kind of from there, it just snowballed into, people buying things from me on Instagram. And then eventually I was like, okay, I need to make this an LLC. And so had to get all the right business entities in place. But yeah, it just really has snowballed into something. I love learning new things. And I typically learn by doing. Okay. So I like knowledge that has application. So it's been really fun to not just think or learn something about all these different types of flowers and seasons, but be able to actually do something with it has been really fun.
That's neat. I love how, sometimes it just takes that one person to offer you money for it, right? And then you're like, oh, wow, this could be something. It's just that one moment. That's cool. Did you have to do a ton of research on I'm assuming the flower world is huge. There's got to be so much to learn there, right? How do you kind of start with that? Was it just first putting together bouquets that from your eye looked beautiful, or were you researching? Is there a science to it? What's that like?
Yeah, well, Trader Joe's and other Wegmans type grocery stores have a lot of flowers available for most of the year. So in the beginning, it was just going to Trader Joe's or those places, picking out flowers that I thought would look fun together and then putting them together. But the floral community is pretty small, even though it seems really big. And people are really willing to share and help. I did some free webinars and things like that about different types of flowers. So it's not just you know, you don't always want a big focal flower in every arrangement that can't make up the whole arrangement. Kind of talking about the difference between greenery and foliage and medium flowers that actually tie together some elements of the larger flowers with the smaller flowers, accent flowers. So there's kind of some industry language around those things. But really, I think flowers are a great space where you can give the same bundle of flowers to three different florists and they will come up with three completely different arrangements just based on how they see flowers and visualize flowers. So I love to kind of look at people I admire either on Instagram or other places and try to do what they did. It always ends up looking completely different than theirs, but kind of practicing different techniques and styles has been really fun.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. It's an art just with flowers, right? Instead of paint. That's cool.
Yeah. And arranging art, right? Taking something that already exists and kind of organizing it into a way that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really neat. And do you still get a lot of your flowers from like Trader Joe's, Wegmans, or are you able to partner with like, are there flower farms down here? Is that a thing?
Yes, in Raleigh, well, in this like area of North Carolina, we have an abundance of flower farms, which is great. They, of course, because of our like climate and our soil, can only grow a certain amount of things and a certain type of flower. So I try to utilize them when I can. But now as a like a business, I can wholesale flowers. So there are times when I'll go to Trader Joe's just to either I need something quick, like I have a last minute order and I don't have time to like order flowers. I'll try there, but mostly I'm looking at wholesale flowers that it's like this company's job to find flowers from all over like the country or the world and bring them to you in one space at the right time.
Okay, that's very cool. And so diving into your flowers and what you sell. So if, someone listening is interested in getting flowers from you, I'm assuming they go to your website, right? And like what types of offerings would they see there?
Yeah, they're welcome to go to my website. I'm pretty active on my Instagram, so they can message me there. That's honestly how I ran most of my business for the first year. I didn't even have a website. I just did it through Instagram. So we do, custom bouquets. So like if a birthday or an anniversary or something like that comes up, we do just single bouquets. Of course, we do, weddings and events. We have a limited number of those throughout the year. And then this has been one of the most fun things for me is I've been doing wholesale bouquets for local store owners. So
Cool.
places like Raleigh Cheesy and Triangle Pop-Up, they all have like physical locations and they can wholesale purchase like mini bouquets from me and sell them with their other merchandise. So that's been really fun. And then this isn't flowers, but I do day of coordination as a part of my business. I just love the wedding space. I love being a part of people's big days. And so that's another thing I offer as well. And I've been really picking up with that this year. So of course the name Raleigh Blooms doesn't necessarily note that, but it's been a really fun part of what I do.
Yeah, well, you can make an event bloom. Maybe that's how you can tie that in.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So day of coordination, does that mean, just describe that a little, right? If I'm having a wedding, do I call you up the day of and ask for your help? Like what is that whole day of
Yeah, that's
coordination?
a great question. So a lot of venues will require this, but even if it's not required, I would always recommend it. Basically, it would be my job on that day to make sure that the timeline of everything that you have said you want to happen actually happens. The whole point of a day of coordinator is to make sure that your family and you are not making big decisions or try to organize large groups of people, that you're actually enjoying your day and spending time together. So I start working with clients. I book clients 6 to 9 months in advance. And then I start working with them. Like I send them a big detail packet 3 months in advance. And then the month of the wedding is when we ask a lot of questions, get a lot of details. I'll send a final timeline and I won't actually meet you until your rehearsal where we'll actually get the timeline together. Basically just making sure everything happens smoothly so you and your family don't have to worry about it.
That makes sense that it's not, hey, Anna, I'm having a wedding in 2 hours. Can you come help?
Yes, that would be, honestly though, some people seem to do that with like, if they don't have a day of coordinator, they're just like find a friend at the wedding and they're like, hey, can you go meet my caterer outside and grab this, 200 person dinner? So yeah, that would be crazy.
Yeah, that's cool though that you offer that service as well. That's pretty neat. And I'm assuming you can't ship your flowers, right? Or are you just local right now?
Yeah, right now I'm just local. The
Okay.
farthest I think I've driven, I mean, of course, for weddings and events, I've gone out of town, but in
Sure.
terms of like a bouquet or two, they can't be shipped right now.
Yep. Okay. That makes sense. So, what has this journey been like? I mean, I know we dove into it a little bit, how it started and how, you were just picking up some flowers and did your research and stuff, and it's evolved from there. But any major steps or challenges or just moments that stand out to you from when you started your business to now? Anything you want to share or reflect on?
Yeah, probably the biggest step, which I feel like every local or small business has to experience at some point is, okay, when do I turn this from a hobby into like a legitimate business? When do I make the decision that I'm just going to go for it or I'm just going to wait?
Mm-hmm.
And the most helpful thing for me in that decision, was some really good advice that not everything is permanent, right? There are some things in life that are permanent and we should think really hard about them and we should make really wise decisions in those areas. But things like this, I could do this for a year, I could do this for 10 years, and I kind of get to decide when I start and when I stop. That's a real privilege I have of, having a full-time job and this on the side. I'm not relying on this for income. So I have the option to
Yeah.
do what I want with this. So this is a great season of life for me to try new things and experience new people. So I decided, the complications of having a hobby where people pay you get complicated really fast. So
Mm-hmm.
I became an LLC and got my website, got all the right things in place with taxes and everything. And that was probably the biggest decision for me. But yeah, just realizing not everything is permanent.
Yeah, I really like that mindset. And I would assume the barrier for people to of turning that hobby into a full-time business or more than just a hobby like you're speaking about is maybe the finances that you have to
Mm.
put up front. So we don't need to go into specifics, but did you have to put up a lot of money to get it started, or was it not like that? I feel like some
Yeah.
businesses you have to, buy the equipment, like if you're a baking business or something, like the industrial equipment, and that costs thousands of dollars. But what was your experience like with that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm always the biggest proponent, even in my typical full-time job, you should always try things on the smallest scale that you
Hmm.
can before you
Hmm.
make them big, right? So in my business, people pay ahead of time for flowers, right? You don't
Okay.
pay for flowers on the spot. So that's helpful in that I'm receiving the income before I actually have to make the flower order because I
Hmm.
never order flowers without someone's final payment. That is a big help in my industry, but kind of doing whatever you can with what you have, right? I would never obviously, recommend that if you've never baked anything or you've just made a few cakes, that you would go and completely redo your kitchen to be
Right.
industrial, right? Go ahead and rent out a kitchen or rent out a space. There are so many options to try things on a small scale. Like I said, before I paid the big bucks for a website that I really liked, I did most of my business on Instagram. So there are so many ways that if you are passionate about something and you want to continue, that I would just consider, how can I do this with what I have right now? Because we're more resourceful than I think we are. Of course, the next big step after that most people ask is like, okay, when do I, like, if you have a full-time job outside of this hobby business, like, when do you quit your
Hmm.
full-time and really commit to this? And I would say that there just should be a lot of time and wisdom in that. If you're regularly turning away business, if you have done a lot of profit projection work to make sure that you could make up for that income if it's necessary to you and your
Hmm.
family. So there are a lot of big decisions like that down the road, but I think anyone can really start something, especially with things like Etsy and
Yeah.
Instagram. Any passionate person can really turn, what they see as beautiful into something that the marketplace would enjoy having.
I think that's really, really great advice because I could see people getting lost in the big goal of having your small business be full time and thinking if I'm going to start this, I have to go all in, right? It's all
Yep.
in or nothing. And to your point, that's not necessarily true. Like starting it small and then scaling and learning along that way, you're going to learn so much. And I think it probably takes a little bit of patience because it is exciting, right? You do want to dive in. You want to be able, well, maybe not everyone, but some people probably just want to be able to quit their job and do this fun business idea that they
Yeah.
have, but you have to take it step by step and really be smart with your decisions. Yeah, I think that's great advice.
Well, and that actually really helps too with like what I like a lot of people call the cost of learning, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we pay a fee to ourselves or to the world because we don't know something. So
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
start really big, you're going to pay so much more in failure costs
Right.
than if you start really small. Like one time I did a workshop with just to test it out, really enjoyed it, but I way overpaid for my flowers. Actually ended up, I lost money on the order, which was fine because I enjoyed the experience and I learned so much. But if I had made this like a massive scale piece of my business without having done that first one, I would be in big trouble, losing a lot of my own money. So yeah, just taking the time to do things in a small kind of dedicated way so that you don't have to have as much cost to learn, right? You could learn in a cheaper way.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point as well, not getting lost in other people's success. Like I've that's been a big lesson for me this year specifically. It's just, some people might go faster. Maybe in 6 months' time, they're quitting their job and
Oh
taking
yeah.
their business full time. And someone like you personally might want to, you as anyone might want to take a year to get to that point, 2 years, right? And that's okay. You have to go along your timeline at your pace. And I think that's so important to remember, especially in this conversation here, this topic that we're discussing. Yeah, that's really, really great advice. Anything else that comes top of mind in terms of advice for other small business owners or people wanting to start a small business or already have a small business? Just any other top lessons that you've learned?
Yeah, I would say I'm a huge fan of very clear boundaries.
Okay.
So my number one piece of advice would always just be like set clear set clear boundaries based on your values. Like I said, I work a full-time job outside of Raleigh Blooms. So I say no to a lot of really great things because I value my job. I want to give a certain level of expertise to my customers. And I know that I won't be able to do certain things because of the other job that I hold. Setting even clear boundaries, not even professionally, but I really value time with my husband and my friends and my
Yep.
community. And so I actually turn off access to my social media at 6 p.m. every night just because I want to be present in the moment. I don't want to be answering things or worrying about who liked my pictures, right? I don't actually have any notifications on my Instagram. I try to turn off my emails just because that's a value that I hold really highly. So I think as artists or even creators, small business owners, we don't want to say no to a customer coming to us.
Yeah.
I think there's a place where we need to learn where our customer is and say yes when we can. But I'm getting really good at saying no to things that don't really match what I value in life or what I want out of this business. Yeah. So that's a hard one because it's a continual work, right? You can't
Sure.
do it one time, check off the box of I set boundaries and then be done. It's a continual work of, oh, wow, actually, this client has come to me with this request and it doesn't actually fit into any of my categories of yes or no. So
Yep.
a new boundary has to be created. So yeah, continual work of boundaries, but that's always been really helpful for me.
Yeah, I love what you're talking about. It's really your personal principles and your business principles as well. And having that set list and staying true to them lets you say, to your point, yes or no to those incoming opportunities. And again, you mentioned, oh, you might have to add a principle or edit one or remove one depending on where you're at in life, right? We all grow and evolve. And it seems you're very strong in those principles. And I think that's such a good practice just in life in general, no
Oh
matter what
yeah,
you're doing.
for sure. It definitely bleeds into other areas of my life too. But it also saves a lot of time, right? Like, how horrible would it have to be every time I get an inquiry to decide if it's something I want to do? Even being clear on my website or my Instagram what it is I provide, so that people don't have to waste their time inquiring with me. So it's not just something that's good for your mental health. It's like good for your time schedule and what you're actually spending your time doing.
Yeah, exactly. You're not saying yes to an opportunity that doesn't serve you and in turn doesn't serve your customer, whoever's asking you about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. That makes sense. Are there other ways that you're able to balance? Because you have, Raleigh Blooms, like you said, is kind of your side hustle, side business. And then you have your full-time job and family, friends, and I'm sure other hobbies and interests. And I love that best practice of shutting off the notifications, past 6 p.m. Anything else you've learned that is just a nice tips or trick to incorporate into your life that helps you kind of harmonize with all that going on?
Yeah. I think another big thing, you kind of mentioned this earlier, is just defining what success looks like for
Mm-hmm.
your business or your hobby. Because success for me does not at all look the same as other florists, other business owners, because I just want something different out of this. I enjoy working with my hands. I enjoy meeting new people, bringing something that is seemingly separate and adding them together. Like that's why I love flowers. That's why I love providing flowers for people. But I don't necessarily have the vision of me doing this full time every weekend, a bunch of weddings, right? So for me, balancing those other passions I have is just, again, sitting down and saying, what do I value in life? What do I think is my purpose in life? And what does success look like in all of these areas, relationships, business, full time work, family? How can I be successful in those on my scale, on like what I say is successful, and not necessarily, what another business owner would say is success?
I really love that. Like I said, it's been a topic that's been top of my mind this year. And
Yeah.
just specifically, like, success to me is being able to have dinner with my husband and hang out with our two dogs and not have to work till 8 p.m., right? Like, sure, I could work till 8 p.m. That's something I could choose to do. And I'm sure that would provide me with opportunities that I probably don't have stopping at
Hmm.
5 p.m., right? But what is success? Success to me isn't working till 8 p.m. and getting that promotion a year early and stuff like that. So I just really relate to that. I think that's just such a good piece of advice and sometimes takes a while to really understand that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important too in a social media age. So, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't hate on social media because it obviously has helped me have the business I have, but personally, I barely use social media because
Okay.
the comparison game is just, I mean, C.S. Lewis, one of my favorite authors, even said, comparison is the thief of joy, right? And
Hmm.
joy is a big part of what I believe I do at Raleigh Blooms. And so I don't need to take the space and time to compare myself in other unhealthy ways. I'd love to learn from other business owners and
Right.
florists, but I use social media for the tool that it is and pretty much nothing else.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I mean, I'm at the point where I have a personal Instagram and then of course the podcast Instagram, and on my personal one I'm just like I don't care. Like I just want to live my life. Like besides my close, friends and family who I actually enjoy seeing their photos, I'm like, man, I just don't care anymore. It's just not worth my time. Which like might sound harsh, but I think it's just about why scroll for days and to your point, like comparing yourself to others when you could instead be living your life, right? And finding your success.
Yeah. I mean, another piece of advice on that. So, a lot of people don't like this idea, especially creatives, which, it's take it or leave it. But I
Mm.
actually have my phone turned on to black and white mode almost all the time because it keeps me from the endless scroll. It's my phone is
Yeah.
not as engaging to me. Of course, when I'm taking pictures, editing photos, I'll turn it back on, but, keeps me in the real world instead of being engaged by the phone, which, I enjoy spending time with my clients or wherever it is
Hmm.
that I am. It allows me to, actually be present in the space that
Right.
I'm in, which again brings me a lot of joy. So every person has to define what success looks like and what they want out of their business, and
Hmm.
if those kind of tools help.
Yep, for sure. And you said black and white, right? Do you mean like your phone is literally no color? It's just in black and white?
Yeah, I have
Oh,
a
cool.
you can do
Yeah.
that through the like accessibility
Sure.
settings on an
Yep.
iPhone, and I just with a I can triple click the on button and it
Ah, okay.
turns back to color. But it's just a
Oh,
way it's completely black and white, all of my apps, all of my photos until I turn it back on, which just keeps me from always needing to be. I mean, it does something with our brains, right? Where we are
mm-hmm.
engaged by it. I mean, I'm a florist, I know about color, right? People are engaged by color, they're drawn in by it. And I don't always want to be that way with my phone. So
Right.
that's just another little tip I found out recently that iPhones can do that. So
That's really neat. I love that tip. I think that's great. I never would have thought about that. Yeah, like that shiny pink whatever Instagram icon just calling your
yes.
name, but just turning off that color, it just makes it more boring. Yeah, that's
Yep.
neat. I like that a lot. That's great. Excellent. So, I don't think you had any experience, right, running like your own business prior to founding Raleigh Blooms. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. Do you have a small business community, like people you chat with or partner with, or is there, others in your life who you're able to just talk about running a small business with? Because it's a hard job, right? Challenges come with that. I'm just curious if you have that sense of community, especially because that's been such a theme on this podcast is everyone says like, oh, the community I have and people I can talk with is just so immensely helpful.
Yeah. I mean, so my mom is a business owner as well. She's similar to me in that she has a full-time job and then she owns another business on the side. And so I kind of just grew up with that as like normal life. I saw her, do the taxes for the business herself and all the invoicing and everything like that. So she's been a really big help to me on the business side of things. I've definitely leaned on her for that. I think the internet has just been so helpful. You can really find almost anything for free online, like searching different invoicing systems, all that stuff I use for free. YouTube videos on how to do or not do things. That has probably been most helpful for me because I can rewatch it over and over and over again. I do have some friends in the flower industry, which are super helpful. One of the things that it's kind of not a pet peeve, but I'm a little disappointed with in the floral industry is people are much more closed, secretive about how they price things. They're not necessarily in style, or if I Instagram DM a florist and I'm like, hey, what is this flower? I've never seen it. So helpful, so friendly there. But when it comes to how do you source materials and what do you like charging and how can I make sure that I'm, creating a sustainable business? I've had a harder time finding that info from fellow florists, but I understand it's pricing, it's their livelihood, like that can be a hard balance there. So I don't want to throw anyone under the bus or anything. Sure. Just I was a little surprised at how close-fisted that was. So I've had to do a lot of more trial and error in how I price things just because of that. But overall, from a creative sense, the industry has been super helpful in helping me learn.
Yeah, that's interesting about the pricing. I wonder if that is unique to the flower industry because other products, right? They're listed on the website. Like this is X amount of dollars, but custom services and products tends to be contact me and we'll work, we'll talk and then here's the price. So I wonder, I'm sure there's other industries out there that are like that, but probably a little more rare for the price not to be just on the website.
Yeah. Well, if there's any florists who are listening to this now and they need someone who's made all the mistakes and lost all the money on orders, shoot me an email and I will not keep it a secret from you. I'd be happy to share. Yeah. So it's probably that way in other industries, but I don't see why it has to be. We're not really competitors in a lot of ways. What I provide is completely different than a lot of other florists, especially florists in other cities. I find they can be the most open because they know I'm not going to take their clients.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I feel similarly about this pricing topic for salaries, right? Like at my corporate job, like I think we truly all benefit if we were just open about what we make. But that's just such a really long time held, I don't know, like practice to not talk about pricing, to not talk about money. And I don't know, I'd be curious if we just all opened up about it, what would happen?
Yeah, money is kind of a taboo topic unless, I have a group of people I call a small group. We get together regularly through my church and we tend to be more open about our finances because we hold similar values and try to spend our money in similar ways. So maybe that could be a barrier is that not everyone has the same values with how we spend money. So we might feel a little embarrassed or, unsure if we can share that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm very open with it. So if anyone's listening and needs some help, just shoot me an email.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Wanted to talk about the future and kind of if you have any specific goals for Raleigh Blooms that you wanted to share or for your future in particular. I know you mentioned, you might do Raleigh Blooms for 10 years or 2 years. Like that's kind of open-ended, but do you have any big plans for the business or things you want to complete or goals for the future?
Yeah. Well, I started this because I like to try new things. And I think that I just want that to continue. I have this like growing list of, I want to try this. Maybe this would be a good time. Like, I recently, I love this company, Oxford Pennant. They like make little pennants and banners of felt and stuff. And with my textile background, I'm really into it. And so I was like, wouldn't it be so fun to have like, instead of a card pick, have like a felt little pennant pick. So I tried that, tried a bunch of other things. Honestly, the list list that I have right now of goals is usually just I want to try that. So I'm starting to get a little bit more into floral contracting, which has been pretty fun. So
Ooh.
basically, like there's another flower shop or florist that exists, and they're running the whole event or the wedding, and I come in as like a second to just literally just be another pair of hands.
Ah,
And that has been so fun for me because I get to experience flowers through the lens of another artist. I think every person sees flowers and shapes differently, colors differently. So I love to, get with another florist or another artist and have them instruct me on how they perceive their flowers to look. So that has been a really cool way to get a firsthand understanding of another florist's style and ideas. So I hope to do more of that in the near future, but we'll see. That's kind of, you don't really post that on Instagram, right?
right.
You have to know people in the industry and different contexts. So I'm kind of growing that list and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully can continue to do that some more.
That's neat though. I didn't know there was this much you could do, and right, I really know nothing about the flower industry. So this has been awesome just to hear more
Yeah.
about it and the things you could do. Like, yeah, that makes total sense. Like go help out, another artist at an event, and because the way of the flower game, so you could just help them out. Like that's neat. I never would have thought about that.
Yeah. The mechanics of flowers are all pretty similar. And like I said, we have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like industry lingo of different types of flowers and how
Yeah.
you put them together. It's really just finishing touches that seem very
Mm-hmm.
specific to an individual color palettes. And a lot of that's decide ahead of time by the florist to an event. So it's really easy to just jump in and be another pair of
Mm-hmm.
hands.
Right. No, that makes sense. Do you ever work with fake flowers or do you only work with live flowers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't work with fake flowers usually. So people tend, when they want to do fake flowers for like an event or wedding, I've gotten some inquiries about them. People think that it's going to be cheaper because
Mm-hmm.
they're fake, but actually fake flowers can end up being much more expensive because the
Okay.
point of fake flowers is that you keep them. So, if anyone's interested in fake flowers, I recommend renting them. There's a lot of
Ah.
shops that do that. You can like rent a fake bridal bouquet, some really high quality fake florals, but yeah, I just really love the temporary state of flowers. They're just here and gone. And I really enjoy that aspect of them. They're
Mm-hmm.
beautiful for a season and they're not in the next. And then
Right.
another season comes. So I tend to work with real flowers.
Yeah, no, I can totally see the beauty in that. Do you have a favorite flower?
Oh, that is a great question. It really, gosh, it just depends on what I'm doing and
Uh-huh.
the work that I'm doing. Of course, like everyone loves a good peony, which are like those really big, layery flowers.
Hmm.
Ranunculus are really fun. They're the kind of small, they're really popular these days. I've been really recently trying to find different types of like foliage and
Mm.
greenery. I'm trying to learn more how to kind of go out into nature and like find different things myself. So it always changes, but I would say those things have been fun recently in this season of the year.
Very cool. Has your love for the flowers turned into any like gardening at your own home, or is it really staying within Raleigh Blooms?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I have been a plant lady since before
Okay. Okay.
Raleigh Bloom started. So I live in an apartment right now and it's filled with plants that will not stop growing. We actually just purchased a home, my husband and I. I'm really
Oh,
excited to move in.
congrats.
And I mean, I don't even know how we got it, but this could be
Mhm.
one of the reasons. We wrote in our letter, the back of this house has a greenhouse already in it.
Oh,
It's
wow.
already
Yeah.
in the backyard. And so I feel like I'm really excited to kind of tackle that, learn how to grow in a greenhouse because I've obviously never had the space to do that before. So that's kind of another thing I see in the horizon of, something I want to learn and
Hmm.
figure out is how I can utilize that greenhouse space.
That's awesome. Congratulations on the house. That's so exciting. I can't wait to see photos on your
Oh yeah, it's
Instagram.
pretty awesome.
Very neat. Well, Anna, my last big question on every single episode is in this moment, what is your proudest accomplishment? And of course, it can be Raleigh Blooms, can be on a totally different topic, just kind of that first thing that comes to mind.
I knew you were going to ask me this question. And I said, Anna, you need to think about this. I have a really hard time thinking about specific moments and
Hmm.
instances. Honestly, like I think I'm really proud of just the life that we've built up to now. I mean, I don't really have a specific instance or moment or achievement. I've gotten to do so many crazy things. I've been blessed and privileged to be able to do some things that I never thought that I would be able to do. And I think just the combination of those playing out in who I am today is probably something that I'm just most excited about, most proud of. So I wish I could give you like a moment, but honestly, I really think that a great life is just built over a lot of seasons of faithfulness and dependence and, trust and things that you believe in. And so for me, that's what I would say has just been really sweet to see is just an over time, little moments of, courage or honesty building into, kind of who I am today and what I enjoy.
No, I think that's great. And it sounds like your proudest accomplishment is the big picture, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of all of it put together. I think that's excellent. I love that answer.
I'm glad it counts as an answer. It was worried.
Yes, it does.
Will it not count?
No, we'll keep it in. You passed.
Great.
No, that's excellent. And thank you so much, Anna, for, of course, being on Virtual Coffee and for this lovely conversation. And before we sign off, where can people find you and Raleigh Blooms? Social media, website, etc. Shout them all out.
Yeah, so they can find our website at raleighblooms.com. Our Instagram is just at Raleigh Blooms. Our email is hello@raleighblooms.com. You can reach me at any of those. I'm kind of the one managing all of those right now. I'd love to hear any questions or just thoughts, or if you're like a local business owner who regularly listens to this podcast and you're like, hey, I want to sell flowers at my shop wholesale, reach out to me. I'm always looking for new people and places. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Anna. This was awesome. And I hope everyone checks out Raleigh Blooms and their beautiful, beautiful flowers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.